Let's go ahead and talk about the localization NDA test that Wuthering Waves recently popped out for signups. A lot of people have been on the fence about this one, and a lot of people are not very happy, calling it like free labor, telling Kira that they need to kind of hire people to do this type of stuff, and that it shouldn't be up to the community to localize their content and stuff like that. So the first and foremost thing I want to talk about is I don't think people understand what closed betas are anymore. I think there's a disconnect, right? So when we grew up, we used to be able to play demos, right? You used to be able to play technically a portion of the game for free, and then you determine whether you liked it or not, and then you move on. These games are free to play. So the demo is the first, hours, whatever you would decide to play on launch. And if it's not for you, then you quit and you move on and you go play something else. That is the new demo of, at least in Gacha Sphere, is the new demo, right? It's just you play it for a little bit. If you don't like it, then whatever. Now, CBTs, a lot of people have been using as like technically demos. Like they kind of just sign up for the intention that they really want to play the game. Now, a lot of people do have good intentions, right? They want to give the game a lot of feedback, and they want to play the game obviously to see if they would like it, because obviously if you don't like it, then your feedback's going to be kind of useless because you're not the target audience for a lot of the different stuff that goes into it. So maybe you could have like feedback on why they could, change some different things, but there's a lot of people I'm sure that jump in with the intention of giving a lot of feedback, and then they realize this game isn't really for me. So I'm not going to give any feedback because I don't really have anything to say because it's not really for me. And then they don't touch the CBT and then they move on. But a lot of people join the CBTs to give feedback on a game that they either are really hyped for, they have high expectations for, or maybe they're just like, hey, this game has potential. Let's see what we can kind of give on feedback and talk about stuff like that. So the intention usually is to jump in here to improve the game on a CBT, not just to play it and see if they like it, right? So I think this thing is so weird to me because like all they're asking for is some people to jump in with a small scale confidential test to, check localization. Now, are they asking you like, hey, you got to sign this document that you're going to proofread every single story? You're going to like sit here and listen to hours and hours of story and make sure that there's grammar, punctuation, all this different stuff. Like there's no checklist. Like they're not asking you like specifically like you have to do this. Like, so to me, it's no different than CBT2 when they're just like, hey, by the way, guys, if you're playing, make sure to give us feedback on all this different stuff. Now, instead of just saying all this different stuff, they're just like, hey, this is localization. It's meant to be about localization. So please just watch out for any text, grammar and stuff that you see. I'm not asking you to like, pull out the reading glasses and stuff and sit here and read through each and everything, but they're asking you just to kind of see what you can kind of find. Now, obviously they have proofreaders, they have people that are able to do this type of stuff. I really feel like maybe at this point they're trying to look from a different perspective. The game is very community driven at this point. I think a lot of people are forgetting that this game's a little bit different because Kiro is just really about what the community thinks. So I think this is kind of a twofold here. Is whenever you go to work, right? So you have a job. Let's say like you're reading a lot of stuff or you're doing a lot of stuff or you're checking for like something that's supposed to be wrong. So whenever you look for something that's supposed to be wrong, you're very practical about it. You're very professional. So you're looking for like punctuation, you're looking for grammar, you're looking for, anything that's a little bit out of place, but you're not necessarily looking for, in this case, like text mess or like for the text and the story and stuff. Maybe you're not looking for the actual flow of something. You're just like, okay, all the grammar works, all the spelling works, all the punctuation works, moving on. Whereas the community themselves would be like, you know what, this word and this word technically is grammarly correct, but I would like it if it was like this way or that way. It would be a lot smoother of a conversation. It would make more sense if it was like positioned this way or talked this way. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll fix that or change that or whatever, right? It depends on how much, is voice acted and all that different stuff. But maybe they'll change like kind of the rhythm of it essentially to give it a little bit more better flow, or maybe they'll kind of change the words up a little bit to make it a little bit better. And I just feel like whenever you're looking at like a professional proofreader and stuff like that, they're not really looking for that. They're just looking for like specific things, right? So whenever they're kind of going through it, they're just kind of looking for all that different stuff I mentioned. Whereas a community member might see stuff that, somebody, it's just one of those things like the more eyes, the better, right? If you're looking for something, especially when it's such tedious stuff like text, you want the more eyes, the better, right? You just want more people to look at it. So even if they have a capable team, it's just always nice to have like, maybe, I don't know how big this is going to be. It says small scale. So maybe 10, 20, 30 people, 100, 200, I don't know. It's just kind of helpful, right? And it, like I said, it's open. Like you can sign up for it if you want. You don't have to. Nobody's telling you to have to. I feel like it's just like whoever signs up for this is obviously with the intention, at least hopefully, if they have good intentions, that they're looking at this like, oh, I kind of would be okay with being part of that. I would like to, maybe they're story goers and stuff like that, like myself. Like I don't mind signing up for it because I like the story. I like reading the story. I like going through stories. I do a lot of story stuff on the channel here, so story is pretty important to me. I like the flow of story, and I like it to make sense, right? I don't want people to say weird things and have, text and stuff like that all messed up, so I'm willing to go through it and kind of, talk about it or maybe give my feedback if I can. And it doesn't really bug me as like free labor, because to me it means something to me, and I care about the kind of production and the potential of this game. So yeah, the other side of it's the NDA. People get squeamish about NDAs. They think it's like weird or sneaky or whatever. An NDA basically for this one, from what I've been able to read, is the fact of the matter is CBT2 is whatever they're comfortable with showing publicly. They're okay with people seeing everything, whatever the gacha rates were, the sound effects, you know, the moves, the attacks, whatever, the stats, they were okay with people seeing. This one looks like it's a little bit newer version than the CBT2, so maybe there's like stuff that's just not finalized. Maybe there's even stuff in there that they're kind of just messing with, right? There could be stats in there that are completely different because they're just messing with it. They're kind of trying to see where it falls in, or maybe they're trying to find an average or whatever the heck they're trying to do. And it's not really meant to be like, the CBT is not really meant to talk about that, right? But if some content creator jumps in here and they're making content, and all of a sudden some you know, Joe Smo sees and like, well, what the hell is this guy's, you know, gotcha rate, and why the hell is it this instead of this? And when the CBT, like, there's no point in doing all that when it's a localization test for text and all that different stuff. So it's just kind of better to have people sign NDAs, because there's no point in having any of this stuff public, because there's stuff on there that probably just isn't going to make it to the final product and just doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter for the public to see it, because it's going to change. So I really don't think there's any problem with this. I mean, feel free to discuss it in the comments, maybe why I'm wrong or something like that. But looking at this, I just don't think it's any different than any other CBT. It's just an NDA one. You're not supposed to talk about it. That's about it. And it's localized, and it's kind of like focused on something specific, right? Instead of just being like a general one where it's just like, hey, give us your feedback on your experience and stuff like that. This one's more like, hey, give us your experience on the story and the text. And just talk about that, because that's what we want.